Hey everybody, it's Tony, your body worker in Minneapolis, and it's now 2026. And occasionally, when I do interviews, either online or when I do consulting work, people ask me, "How long have I been in the industry? What is my education? How does my business function and work? And why have I been in the industry for so long?" So I thought, since this happens to me quite often, why not just do a quick video about it, and hopefully it will help answer a lot of people's questions. So I started in this industry around 2009, and I started in school, I think, in late 2007, early 2008, somewhere in there. This is a second career for me. Um, and I did it because my personal life changed. I sold my company and I moved to a different part of the city that I live in. And it became a situation where I realized that the jobs I was being offered when I started looking for work were very entrepreneurial in nature and required me to rebuild into industries I didn't really like. So I'll give you an example. I had a lot of people suggest and offer that I go into the real estate industry or insurance, car sales, things like that. These are things that I was not really interested in to begin with, and I didn't really feel like if I had to start over again, was this really something I wanted to do? And I realized it wasn't. So I went. I used to teach for a while before this, and I know that universities and colleges, oftentimes you can go in and take classes as an audit to see if you actually like it. And a lot of prospective students don't even know it exists, and it's not typically offered. But I did inquire, and I was told that that was a possibility. So I went around and I looked at what are the courses that are required for certain majors, and could I look at the intro courses? Could I go into an anatomy course or a physiology course or math class or whatever it might be? And I just started looking around, and my measuring stick honestly wasn't that high. When I left the class, was I interested, and did I have any feelings afterwards? And everything that had to do with healthcare kind of, I could go in, take the classes, leave at the end, and realize that it didn't bother me too much, and I didn't have a lot of feelings about it, which is actually a good gauge for me personally. And so I talked to the head of a couple of departments, and there was this woman there who just said, "What are you waiting around for? Just start the major. You have plenty of credits to transfer in. It's not going to take you long to get through the class work. And even if you don't like it within the first, couple of semesters, you can transfer a majority of those credits into other departments that you're already interested in at this school." So I was like, you know what? She's not wrong. And that's a good way of thinking about it. It's not a waste of time necessarily if a lot of those credits transfer. And the way a lot of them were structured, I was going to bring them along anyway. So I ended up negotiating with the school on a couple of different varieties of majors and how many they would allow to transfer in, of which I already had a 4-year degree plus another 2-year degree after that. So I had a lot of credits. I think I had 140 some credits. So I had a lot of credits under my belt that were still transferable. So that's what I did. As I went through, I realized I kind of liked it. And then as I started to get out of school, I'm like, well, now I have to make this work. And I didn't know a lot about the industry, so I decided the best way to handle this was to make an LLC, to structure it in such a way that as I gained more experience, and if I wanted to go into private practice, I would have everything set up already. Now, most people in this industry are not entrepreneurs, despite what a lot of schools will tell you. Most of them aren't. A lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs try it and they just can't do it. And that's for a variety of reasons. A lot of it is they're not willing to take the time to do the follow through to make the business function properly. If your home is messy, if you don't pay your bills on time because you're not organized, whatever it might be, you have a lot of stress in your family life and you don't have a lot of flexibility, These are things and traits that I have found over the years just do not make great entrepreneurs that stay in business for any length of time, because it catches up to you. I had prior experience. I knew I had the discipline and the understanding of how to do that, so it didn't bother me. So then, as I finished up school, I built that, and then I went to go work for somebody else. In retrospect, it was probably the most difficult part of this career. I worked in essentially a sweatshop. It was about volume. They paid me very little. They treated all of the staff terribly, and they had a very high turnover rate and very low customer satisfaction. I would say that if I had to do it over again, I would have been a little bit more selective, because I was only with that company for about 8 months before I just decided it was time for us to part ways. Because I had found that there were more reasonable business owners out there who treated people better. Once I did that, I just kind of stayed and tried to build a clientele and understood over time what are the things that I brought to the table that people liked, and who kept coming back to see me. What were the common traits they had? And some of it was very difficult, because the things I wanted to be known for and the reasons I wanted people to come back and see me didn't always pan out the way I thought. It taught me a lot about myself, and it taught me a lot about the way I did things and who I wasn't attracting and who I was attracting. After some years of doing that, I had a mentor, which I always recommend if you're getting into any line of work, find a good mentor. I found a good mentor when I was in school by happenstance, and she stayed with me up until mid-2024, and that's when she retired. I will tell you that having a good mentor goes a long way toward learning lessons you need to learn, and someone to tell you the honest truth. And the most important thing is get advice from people who are successful in the way that you want to be successful. Some people's success is money. Some people's success is satisfaction. Some people's success is a mix of both. Some of it is, hey, I've done it this way, but I'm more than willing to listen to how other people do it, and I want to help you find your path. Everybody does mentoring differently, and I still do that today for people that ask. And one of the things my mentor told me was, there's a good thing here, and you're not ready to take the leap when you really are, and you need to make that work. And I did. And the room I'm in right now is the room that she said, you should really take that room. It's a good deal. You'll start to build a clientele. If you're financially able to, this is something you want to do. And I did. And now over 10 plus years later, I've really found a way to make that work. And I did do some work before that, but I never had a space of my own. And now that I do, I don't regret it. Now, what are some things about my future? So when I started my business, it was concentrating on sports and injuries. Why? Because that's where I found I was taking the most continuing ed, and those were a lot of the people that kept coming back to me. It wasn't necessarily for relaxation. It was for those things. So I kept focusing my education over time on that. And I only took a couple of continuing ed classes a year because I still had to pay my bills, pay off my schooling, and still build a clientele. But you do this slowly over time. Then I got into the consulting business side of my company, and that is doing interviews for massage and bodywork owners, helping them build a clientele, helping them hire and fire people, helping them come up with a good business plan or their finances, or find good suppliers for them, or help them with marketing because they weren't attracting the right clients. Because my years of entrepreneurship in a different industry taught me a lot of lessons about how to look for things that work and don't work, and being able to admit to yourself when you've done something right or done something wrong. So I started building revenue that way, not just doing hands-on work. Then it came to looking at the next 10, 15 years of my career. I realized that this is a very physical industry, and that I couldn't just have one source of revenue, but I also had to have a source of revenue as my body starts to break down with age and experience. And my mentor did not do this very well. I think it led to her early retirement, and the abuse that her body took eventually started to catch up with her. And I realized that it's unlike a lot of other businesses where you have all this nice equipment, you have a client list. It's not worth as much as people think it is. If you have hard assets like machinery and vehicles and things like that, inventory, then you got something to sell. In a service-based business like this, it's your clientele and maybe a little bit of your equipment because it depreciates over time. So what I did there is I said, be on the lookout for things. Be on the lookout. And subconsciously, every single month, I looked for things. And then I came upon teaching classes in CPR and first aid. And I started the journey about now 3 or 4 years ago. It's going to take time and effort, and it cost me quite a bit of money to get started. But very slowly, it's starting to pay for itself. And as I consolidate my clientele into certain days and times, it gives me time to go out and teach classes. Now, my goal is to teach my own classes and not work through a subcontract. But we'll see how that turns out. Other people, they do desk work, or they run daycares, or they are a lunch lady at a school or something else, either towards another career path where they have prior education or something less physical. Everybody comes up with their own thing, but it's very rare that somebody works full-time and doesn't have another side job. So where does that leave me now? So where that leaves me is still building another aspect to the business, letting some other things go, and allowing the business to grow and evolve. And as I do, there are some times where I say, you know what, I could go and make more money doing something else. But I have to look at something else. And I would say this to anybody who's getting into the profession. You don't have to be in this forever. The statistics have warranted out over the last 50 years that about 80% of people that get into this profession leave in the first 2 years of practice. Of the remaining, about 50% of the people that are left leave within 10 years or at 10 years. And that tiny, tiny, small amount at the end after 10 years will usually be in it for the rest of their career. I have already crossed that threshold, and I can tell you that in my mid-40s, I will probably end up doing this in some capacity until I retire. One, because I like the work. 2, because I like the people. And 3, because it provides me enough income where I still feel like I have control of how my day works. Every day is different for me. I start at a different time, I end at a different time, and there's always something to do in the middle, or I find stuff I need to do, like these videos. And so my days are never boring. I make sure I'm always doing something of value. And I think that's what people try and get to if they want to be entrepreneurs. Now, for the people that don't, if they just want to have a job where you can go in and do the work, there are parts of this profession where you can literally decide when you work and when you don't. You have a set amount of time every day you're going to be there. You know what you're going to make, and you get to go home, and you don't have to think about it because someone else that you're working for does all that for you. And that's good for a lot of people, and that's just fine. What I see for the future of my industry, I still think there is a huge need for people in my industry. I think as the world becomes more electronic, moves faster, there is going to be a marketplace for people that can pull you out of that, settle you back down, and allow you to go back better than when you came. And I don't think that can be, that can't be put into something electronic. A massage chair can't do what I do. Human touch is a need that we have, and the less time that we spend together as families, as couples, as parents with children, families in general, the less actual time we spend in physical spaces together, whether it's relaxing, sleeping, just spending quality time with each other, the more electronic and the more scheduled and the more rushed we are, the more these things tend to matter, and I don't think there are enough people in my profession that are in it right now to satisfy the demand that will be coming much sooner. As far as people saying it's a luxury, I don't consider it a luxury. I don't think it's a luxury. I think that what I charge is reasonable. I'm never going to be rich this way, but I will be happy and I will be able to pay my bills. For the people that tend to charge less, it's typically because either they don't have the proper education and training and insurance, or they have very low to no overhead. These are typically people that work out of their homes where their home is paid for, and they're doing it just for some extra money. Doesn't mean you're going to get a bad service. You just have to know what to expect. But even right now, in most places, you're going to pay between $75 an hour and about $140 an hour. And it just kind of depends on the circumstances you're in. But I would tell everyone that it is worth your time to get a massage. I would consider it healthcare. I would consider it useful. And I would rather cut out a subscription to a service, like a video service, than miss the ability to take care of my mind and my body by getting body work or a massage of some kind every single month. I hope this message has been helpful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and we'll see you on the table.